The music industry has given us a lot of gems. Sadly, many of them have left the world too early, and Buddy Holly was one such musician. He was the pioneering figure of mid-1950s rock and roll. However, he was fated to a terrifying end. Join us as we tell you all you need to know about the short life and the miserable end of Buddy Holly. Charles Hardin Holly was born in Lubbock, Texas on September 7, 1936. He was better known as Buddy Holly and was an American singer and songwriter. The change of spelling of Holly to Holly came about because of an error in a contract he was asked to sign, listing him as Buddy Holly. That spelling was then adapted for his professional career. The Hollys were a musical family, and as a young boy, Holly learned to play the violin, piano, and guitar. In the fall of 1949, he met Bob Montgomery at Hutchinson Junior High School. They shared a common interest in music and soon teamed up to perform as the duo Buddy and Bob. Initially influenced by bluegrass music, they sang harmony duets at local clubs and high school talent shows. Holly's big break came when they opened for Bill Haley and his Comets at a local rock show organized by Eddie Crandell, who was also the manager for Marty Robbins. As a result of this performance, Holly was offered a contract with Decca Records to work alone. Back in Lubbock, Holly formed his band The Crickets and began making records at Norman Petty Studios in Clovis, New Mexico. Among the songs they recorded was That'll Be the Day, which takes its title from a phrase which John Wayne's character uses repeatedly in the movie The Searchers. Norman Petty had a lot of contacts in the musical industry, and he believed that That'll Be the Day would be a hit. Hence, he contacted multiple publishers and labels. Coral Records, a subsidiary of Decca Records, signed Buddy Holly and the Crickets. This put Buddy in an unimaginable position of having two record contracts at the same time. Before That'll Be the Day had its nationwide release and became a smash hit, Holly played lead guitar on the hit single Starline, which was recorded in April 1957, featuring Jack Huddle.
Starlight, star bright, first little star that I see tonight.
Holly's music was known to be sophisticated and unique, including his use of instruments considered novel for rock and roll, such as the Celesta. The use of such instruments is what made his music different from the others. Holly was an influential lead and rhythm guitarist, notably for songs such as Peggy Sue and Not Fade Away. His songs featured more sophisticated lyrics as well as more complex harmonies and melodies than other songs that had been previously heard. Most of his songs feature a unique vocal hiccup technique, a clipped-off sound used to emphasize certain words in any given song. These techniques are still very popular among musicians in the modern musical world.
If you knew Peggy Sue, then you know why
Holly also managed to overcome the racial discrimination that's associated with rock music by notably winning over an all-black audience when accidentally booked for New York's Apollo Theater. Unfortunately, this form of racial discrimination can still be witnessed as people mainly assume that rock and roll is only good when sung by a person of color. After the release of several highly successful songs in March of 1958, he and the Crickets toured the United Kingdom.
Listen to me and hold me tight, and you will see.
In the audience were John Lennon and Paul McCartney, who later cited Holly as a primary influence, and the band's name, The Beatles, was later chosen in homage to Holly's Crickets. The Beatles did a cover of Words of Love that was an almost perfect reproduction of Holly's version. Moreover, the Rolling Stones did a cover of Not Fade Away to honor Holly's Crickets.
I'm gonna tell you how it's gonna be. You're gonna give your love.
Holly's style had a heavy influence on the musical industry, and the influence could be seen in artists such as Elvis Costello, Marshall Crenshaw, and the earlier folk rock bands like the Byrds and the Turtles. He married Maria Elena Santiago on August 15, 1958. In 1959, Holly split with the Crickets and began a solo tour with other notable performers, including Ritchie Valens and J.P. Richardson. One audience member at the tour stop in Duluth, Minnesota was a young Bobby Zimmerman, who later became known as Bob Dylan. On 3rd February 1959, 22-year-old Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens, age 17, died in a plane crash shortly after takeoff from Clear Lake, Iowa. The pilot of the single-engine Beechcraft Bonanza was also killed. Holly hired the plane after heating problems developed on his tour bus. All three were traveling to Fargo, North Dakota for the next show on their Winter Dance Party tour, which Holly had planned to make money after the breakup of his band The Crickets in the previous year. The Winter Dance Party tour was planned to cover 24 cities in just 3 weeks, and Holly would be the biggest headliner. Waylon Jennings, a friend from Lubbock, Texas, and Tommy Allsup joined the tour as backup musicians. Richie Valens, probably the hottest of the artists at the time, the Big Bopper, Dion, and the Belmont made up the list of other performers. They had reached the Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake, Iowa the previous night. Due to mechanical difficulty with their chartered bus, the group arrived at Surf Ballroom less than 2 hours before the performance. The ballroom was packed with over 1,500 fans, many of whom had driven hundreds of miles on snow-covered roads to see the stars perform. Buddy was fed up with the chartered bus with its faulty heater, so before the performance, he asked the surf manager Carol Anderson about renting a chartered plane to fly him to his next destination in Moorhead, Minnesota. Anderson knew the owner of Dwyer Flying Service in nearby Mason City, whom he contacted to arrange the flight. Anderson was not able to get a hold of the owner, so he called one of the pilots, Roger Peterson, who agreed to take Buddy plus 2 others to Moorhead. After the performance, the group got ready to travel to their next show on the tour bus. Holly boarded the 1947 Beechcraft Bonanza aircraft to Fargo, North Dakota, the nearest airport to Moorhead. 2 other members of the group had the option to fly with him at $36 per person. Dion didn't want to pay, but Waylon Jennings was keen to fly with Buddy, but exchanged his seat with J.P. Richardson because he had a cold. Tommy Allsup was included in the group, but Richie Valens offered to flip him for the seat since he was ill. The local host of the Winter Dance Party, Bob Hale, flipped the coin. Richie called heads and won the toss. Years later, Tommy Allsup opened a dance club named the Heads Up Saloon to commemorate his life-saving coin toss. In his 1996 autograph, Waylon Jennings stated that he was disappointed that he had to ride in the freezing bus, so his parting remark to Buddy was, "I hope your damn plane crashes." Jennings said this remark has haunted him ever since then. The plane took off around 1 a.m. from Mason City Airport into a blinding snowstorm and crashed only minutes later in a cornfield, killing all 3 musicians and the pilot. Because the plane didn't catch fire when it crashed, no one noticed the wreckage until the next day, about 402 meters, a quarter of a mile from the nearest country road. Early reports from the scene suggest the aircraft spun out of control during a light snowstorm. Only the pilot's body was found inside the wreckage, as the performers were thrown clear on impact. The Civil Aeronautics Board concluded that the primary cause of the crash was pilot error due to the 21-year-old Peterson's inability to accurately interpret the newly installed Sperry F3 attitude indicator, which he was forced to rely on in poor weather conditions. The theory was that Peterson may have read the gyroscope backwards as a result of vertigo and thought that the plane was gaining altitude when it was actually descending. Buddy Holly's body was buried a few days later on 7th February. Services were held in Lubbock, Texas at the Tabernacle Baptist Church, where over 1,000 mourners attended the service. Moreover, in 1988, Buddy fan Ken Packett built a monument to the singers from stainless steel and placed it at the crash site, where the current owners of the land also planted 4 trees in memory of the victims. Buddy Holly's widow, Maria Elena Holly, announced that she had entrusted the publishing rights to her late husband's influential catalog to the artist's performance rights group, BMG. The company is now authorized to administer royalties worldwide for nearly all of Buddy Holly's recordings. According to reports, Buddy has a net worth of $1 million, which he obtained mostly from a successful singing career. He scored several chart-topping successes and toured around the world, often as a support act for Elvis Presley, all of which contributed to his fortune. The Buddy Holly Story is a 1978 American biographical musical drama film directed by Steve Rash that tells about the life and career of rock and roll musician Buddy Holly. It features an Academy Award-winning musical score adapted by Joe Renzetti and an Oscar-nominated lead performance by Gary Busey. The actors did their own singing and played their own instruments, with guitarist Jerry Zaremba overdubbing the guitar parts. Busey, in particular, was noted for recording the soundtrack music live and for losing a considerable amount of weight to portray the skinny Holly. According to Busey's biography, he lost 14 kilograms or 32 pounds to look more like Holly, who weighed 66 kilograms or 146 pounds at the time of his death. The film had a special premiere in 9 different Texas and Oklahoma cities on May 18, 1978, including Holly's hometown of Lubbock and Busey's hometown of Tulsa, before opening in Los Angeles on June 14th. The film earned $14.3 million on a $1.2 million budget. In addition, the film won the Academy Award for Best Adaptation Score by Joe Renzetti. Busey was nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role. From the humble beginning of his life to the sad and tragic ending, he has left a lot of memories in our hearts. Although his life was tragically cut short, he has left a lot of beautiful memories for us to tune into. His unique musical techniques have inspired generations of the musical world. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an update. Also, don't forget to comment and tell us about your thoughts.